In at number 10, early fame. James Corden revealed that he had to actually have therapy to stop being a brat after he became intoxicated by fame for the first time. Even as Gavin and Stacey co-star Rob Brydon had to step in and tell him off for his rude behavior while on set. Rob recalls saying, "Look, this is a bit awkward to say, but I'm just hearing these things about you, and you've got to know that the way you behave has an effect on people." Which is bizarre because the whole reason that he wrote this show for himself to, star in was because that he was sick and tired of people being rude to him over his weight and many other things. So to just turn around and be rude didn't really make sense. In at number 9, fake driving. Once transitioning from comedic actor to late night host, James had to come up with some new games that would keep his audience interested. It's a simple concept, but something that is at the very least relatable to most audiences, other than having a giant celebrity in your passenger seat, that is. Well, it turns out that the whole thing is a sham and a cheap way to trick their audience. A tweet went viral showing that James Corden doesn't actually drive the vehicle during the show, but rather has it being pulled around on a trailer.
They're doing carpool karaoke.
That is so funny.
Hey, Bieber. Justin Bieber.
Oh my god.
And James Corden.
Ah, that's so great.
In at number 8, Fight Club.
The second rule of Late Late Show Fight Club
Look,
is
James. The first and the second rule of Late Late Show Fight Club is I am not doing Late Late Show Fight Club. Okay?
Even though James Corden had an excellent opportunity to chat with Edward Norton, he ruined that chance by trying to do some weak comedic version of Fight Club, using his own writing staff. Right from the start, you can tell that Ed just doesn't want any part of this, and why would he? Fight Club was a great film, but it's one of the many that the actor has been a part of. Plus, he was there trying to promote a new movie, so why waste time on something like this? Although James still isn't getting it until Norton tells him that there are better ways of expressing masculinity. All the guy wants to do is talk about his film Motherless Brooklyn, which he not only starred in but also directed and wrote. But no, James wants a Fight Club parody sketch. Okay, what a waste of a guest. In at number 7, Tomi Lahren. When President Trump decided to shut down the government in 2018 to force Congress into paying for his border wall with Mexico, many celebrities spoke out against him. Although one defender was conservative commentator Tomi Lahren, who wasn't happy with what Cardi B had to say about the matter. In a tweet, Tomi mocked Cardi B and said, "Looks like Cardi B is the latest genius political mind to endorse the Democrats. Ha, keep it up, guys." In response, Cardi said, "Leave me alone, I will dog walk you," which basically means she'll beat her up somewhere. And instead of backing off though, Tomi doubled down with her comments and said in response, "I'm sure you would, still doesn't make your political rambling any less moronic." Now, I don't like Tomi Lahren at all, but politics is her field, whereas Cardi B didn't exactly know what she was talking about, and this became evident when she started tweeting about her tax dollars going to pay for people's insurance. In at number 6, distracted hosting. While hosting the Glamour Woman of the Year Awards, James got himself into a now famous argument with Patrick Stewart. Apparently while hosting, he looked completely disinterested and many felt that he gave off an attitude like he was better than the event. Plus, while recipients were accepting their awards, there was James just standing off to the side texting during a live award show. So when Patrick Stewart came on stage, he decided to confront James over his rude behavior. But because some people hadn't noticed what James was doing, Patrick seemed to be the rude one in this interaction. Although in retrospect, he was a hero ahead of his time. Take a look at this awkward exchange and keep in mind that this was 10 years ago.
No, seriously, go on.
Okay.
No, go on. You can see my belly, and we can all see you dying right now. Let's go for it. Here we go.
Patrick was simply trying to tell James not to text while people are accepting their awards, and instead of apologizing, he got in Patrick Stewart's face. Like, what was he gonna do? Fight him? Because he asked you to have common sense? Bit rude. In at number 5, Ricky Gervais. Comedian Ricky Gervais has never been one to conceal his true thoughts about someone, and this has become made expressly clear when he hosted the Golden Globes. In his opening monologue, he tore into nearly every massive celebrity in attendance. Even after all of the backlash that he received, he was still welcomed as a guest on The Tonight Show. Although as soon as Ricky sat down, he began to argue with Jimmy over comments regarding his appearance. Ricky Gervais then goes into a 4.5-minute rant about everything wrong with what Jimmy just said. It just gets so heated that Jimmy even turns to his production team for help after Ricky swears live on air. In at number 4, joked about assault. Right around the time that people like Rose McGowan and other accusers started stepping up and calling out Harvey Weinstein for his egregious behavior, James thought it would be fun to joke about it. Due to James Corden being a comedic actor and not a stand-up comedian, his jokes had absolutely no legs or timing. As a result, the audiences mostly groaned uncomfortably about the extremely graphic and too soon material that was clearly not well suited for a charity event. After the immense backlash, James tweeted, "To be clear, clear, sexual assault is no laughing matter. I was not trying to make light of Harvey's inexcusable behavior, but to shame him, the abuser, not his victims. I am truly sorry for anyone offended. That was never my intention. Oh, so now shaming is okay, just as long as it's not happening to you. Another Italian actor named Asia Argento, who alleges that Weinstein sexually assaulted her when she was 21, tweeted a video of Corden's joke and added the caption, "Shame on this pig and everyone who grunted with him." I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name. In at number 3, Khia. Rapper Khia, who is best known for her one-hit wonder from 2002 called My Neck, My Back, has also had her fair share of issues with Cardi B. In 2017, during a segment on her web series called The Queen's Court, she apparently had viewed a video of Cardi that made her lose all respect for the rap star. Although she didn't reference what exactly the video was, music blog Hip Hop Lately quotes her as saying, "She looks like the ring in the tub after 10 people done bathed in it. Y'all know how the ring around the tub looks when everybody in your family bathed in it and nobody decided to wash it out and they keep jumping in it. That's how she looked in that video." Apparently the comments came shortly after hackers had released a video of Cardi in the nude from her husband Offset's iCloud account. Although Khia doesn't exactly have the same star power that she once did, so I really doubt that Cardi B is losing any sleep over those comments. In at number 2, hates his fans. Going back to that disastrous Reddit Ask Me Anything post that he made, we have countless people who were once fans of James claiming negative interactions with the host. One Redditor mentioned the time that he saw James Corden filming the UK game show A League of Their Own, and while other stars were polite and engaged with fans, Corden couldn't have cared less. It's a bit of a long post, so I'll just point out the most egregious examples. The Redditor writes, "James came in for a brief moment, someone asked politely for a quick picture, and he abruptly said later, and then left to his changing room for the rest of the night," which means they never got the photo. Then they closed it off by saying, "Seeing him like that made me realize everything you see of his on TV is a complete persona, and really his natural personality is just a complete self-entitled," and that's a word that I'm not allowed to say on YouTube. So, but you get the point. You get the point. I'm not gonna say that word. It's a bad one. Last but certainly not least, on our number 1 spot, Happy Mother's Day. Then there was this crazy airplane story involving a woman and a baby. There's for sure no way to verify whether or not the story is true, but it does seem pretty much in line with what others have been saying about the late night host. Apparently a woman with her crying baby was sat next to James Corden on a flight, but to many people's surprise, James didn't complain. He simply put in his noise-canceling headphones and pulled a mask over his eyes, then turned away from the woman to sleep. However, when the plane landed, Corden remained in his seat as the woman with the baby struggled to open her overhead compartment. What makes the story even worse is that the woman then turned to James and asked him to at least hold the baby while she was getting the bags down. Turns out that woman was his wife, and that baby was his baby. In at number 10, Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon decided enough was enough when images of Jimmy Fallon wearing blackface began to resurface. The main photo going around showed Jimmy dressed as comedian Chris Rock for what was an old Saturday Night Live sketch. Jimmy has since apologized, but not everyone was ready to accept that apology. Nick Cannon then posted a collage of Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, and Sarah Silverman all in blackface as he wished everyone a happy Blackface History Month. He then went on to tag all of them in another post as he begged the question, "Are these your kings of late night?" Oh, and by tag them in a post, I mean he literally tagged their Instagram handles to further that conversation. In a final message about Jimmy Fallon, Nick Cannon had this to say, "You know, I'm always on the side of the comedian and never pander to the sensitive, but I feel there needs to be some truth and reconciliation discussions and teachable moments amongst our communities." But before we get into our next point though, make sure to smash that like button because it really helps us out here on the channel. In at number 9, Tracy Morgan. Back in 2007, Vulture magazine did a full story called "Tracy Morgan Hates Jimmy Fallon Just as Much as You Do." And in that article, they have quoted Tracy Morgan as he discussed what it was like to work with Fallon on Saturday Night Live. In the quote, Tracy said, "Laughing and all that dumb shit he used to do, he wouldn't mess with me because I didn't fucking play that shit. That's taking all the attention off of everybody else and putting it on you. Like, oh, look at me, I'm the cute one. I told him not to do that in my sketches, so he never did." Some people may have viewed Jimmy's laughter as a sign of nervousness, or perhaps he thought the sketch was just so funny that he couldn't keep a straight face. However, with this direct quote from someone who worked alongside him, it's become clear that the laughter is more for attention than anything else. I mean, we can't fault him for wanting more attention on a show that is widely known to be super competitive within their own ranks. The stories about Saturday Night Live cast members backstabbing each other to get their sketches on air is endless. And it turns out Tracy Morgan wasn't about to have Jimmy steal any of his spotlight. In at number 8, Shawn Mendes. So far, singer Shawn Mendes has had 2 appearances on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, and we're not sure why. Nothing against Shawn, but that first appearance was very awkward. Shawn first appeared on the show back in 2016 and came on to help Jimmy with singing songs on the spot. Unfortunately for Shawn, Jimmy gave him a late cue to start singing, which made Mendes look extremely unprofessional and completely out of his element. Even though that wasn't the reality, it's certainly came off that way. In at number 7, against his writers. When James Corden decided to do an Ask Me Anything on Reddit, it could not have backfired any worse. One of his producers named Jack Allison had made a tweet in regards to how poorly James had treated his writing staff, which was included in the litany of complaints made against the host. Jack tweeted, "I'd like to state once again for the record that I went to a WGA meeting for only late night writers, and James Corden showed up without any of his staffers to advocate for a lower pay grade for late night writers." Now, James tried to refute his points, but honestly, his Twitter replies aren't even worth showing here. He basically called his own producer a liar and stated that he cared about his writers while simultaneously arguing for lower pay at the Writers Guild of America meeting. In at number 6, Don Rickles. Comedian Don Rickles was an absolute legend, famous for being able to humiliate an entire room of people just by himself. Doesn't sound that impressive, but writing good roast jokes can be very difficult, and this man was able to think of them on the spot and deliver it with ease. This moment he has with Jimmy Fallon can be very telling though, as Don Rickles showers Jimmy with compliments before arriving at the conclusion that he has never liked the late night host. Rickles has been appearing on The Tonight Show since Fallon was in diapers, so the moment that he was on the show, he took complete control and warned us that Fallon carrying on the show may have been a bad idea. He said he was great at impressions, but then mocked the size of the audience, and this was pre-COVID. He also mentioned that Jimmy should enjoy the show while he has it because it's probably not gonna last. In at number 5, Asian Doll. Music is subjective, and so obviously people will have different opinions on who their favorite artists are. However, when Cardi B released a list of her up-and-coming favorite female rappers, she really angered a few people left off that list. Cardi posted the list to Twitter in August of 2018 and said, "New female rap artists on my list, City Girls, Cupcake, Sweetie." Now, initially Cardi B was criticized for creating a list at all. A lot of people felt like co-signing new artists typically comes from those who have been in the industry for decades, but one of the main people that got really upset and tried to warn us about Cardi B was fellow female rapper Asian Doll. In response to Cardi's list, she wrote, "I don't need no co-signs, I got co-signed by 2 of the biggest artists in hip-hop, now it's time for me to just do my thing and go hard." In at number 4, Samantha Bee. Samantha Bee is a comedian and political commentator that used her show called Full Frontal with Samantha Bee to further discuss her opinions and views on the world. So when Jimmy had on President Donald Trump, it came to no surprise that Samantha Bee was going to have some strongly worded opinions. When Jimmy had Trump on his show, he created one of the most memorable and perhaps controversial moments in late night history. With the president sitting beside the desk, he leaned over and ruffled his hair. This was highly criticized by many other late night hosts as being too jovial. Samantha's issue with this interview conducted by Fallon was that it should have never even happened. In at number 3, political harassment. While filming a segment on his show called Spill Your Guts, James was asked a very specific question about what happened when he saw Ivanka Trump at a wedding. James admitted that he was very drunk and continuously harassed the president's daughter at the wedding. He repeatedly told her that she needs to do something, which isn't exactly the place nor the time. Plus, who does James Corden think he is? He wasn't born in America. He came there so that he could make more money. So why does he feel this entitlement to trash the country that accepted him? Plus, harassing the president's daughter while at a wedding, while drunk, is perhaps the biggest indicator that James has no self-awareness.
But I remember that we were quite drunk and we started going, "Ivanka, you can do something. You can make a difference." I remember Ivanka was going, "I'm trying."
In at number 2, Roger Waters. For those of you who don't know, Roger Waters along with musician Syd Barrett are the founding members of the legendary rock band called Pink Floyd. The pair played together for many years before Syd eventually left the band. Although his diagnosis was never made official, many speculated that Syd Barrett could have been suffering from schizophrenia. In addition to his mental illness going unchecked, he was also experimenting heavily with psychedelics, which certainly impacted the music that Pink Floyd had created. However, Syd's brain chemistry did not bode well with mixing these drugs with his already distraught state of mind. When discussing this on The Tonight Show, you can visibly see Roger begin to get uncomfortable. Like, you can tell that even this long after Syd's passing, it never gets easier for him to talk about. Now, the part where he inadvertently warns us about Jimmy Fallon is how Jimmy responds to this emotion. Instead of matching his energy and being more gentle with the conversation, Jimmy catapults himself out of the uncomfortable zone and immediately begins to try and crack jokes, which lands us at this awkward departure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can't wait to see you, and I'll be at every show screaming. I'll be waving at you, and you'll be ignoring me. But anyways.
Last but certainly not least, on our number 1 spot, John Oliver. Many late night hosts have learned over the years that they are not really competition, but rather colleagues working in a similar field. This, however, does not mean that they are beyond criticizing the others' interviewing techniques. John Oliver, for example, hosts his own show called Last Week Tonight that has grown to become a big success in its own right. Even though John has his own show, he did appear as a guest on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. However, things got off to a very awkward start. After Jimmy remarked at his love for the name of John's show, John Oliver thought that his comment was weak, pun intended, maybe. But the worst part was that it did not get better from here. Oliver outright said that this strange out of nowhere compliment comes as a result of Jimmy Fallon's awful interviewing skills.
Starting off at number 10, we have Nicki Minaj. The most obvious person that hates Cardi is Nicki Minaj, because at this point they are the two top women in rap, with Nicki being at the top for decades, while Cardi recently exploded onto the scene with massive success. The two have not always publicly feuded, even though there have always been rumors that they didn't like each other. It seemed like they were back on good terms when they both collabed in the Migos song Motorsport. But then shortly after New York Fashion Week, we got to see the truth of the matter, when Cardi straight up came for Nicki, lunged at her and threw her shoe at her face. A person that was there told E! News, quote, "It was so fast. I heard someone screaming. Everyone recognized Cardi's voice. People either got out of the way or took out their phones and started filming." Nicki was surrounded by a bunch of guards and barely even looked at her. Next thing you know, shoes were flying and Cardi was on her way out. With a massive bump on her head, by the way, I might add. Probably the most iconic picture literally ever. But the night did not end well for Cardi, as she left with a huge bump on her head, courtesy of Nicki's security. As a response to the outburst, Cardi posted on Instagram that Nicki talked trash about her mothering and that's why she did it. Nicki aired her side of things on her Queen radio show, saying the scuffle was, quote, "so mortifying and so humiliating to go through," adding she would never talk about someone's child or parenting. Then there was another incident where Nicki allegedly leaked Cardi's number, which Cardi obviously did not take well. But a day later, Nicki seemingly called a truce on Twitter, saying she, quote, "won't be discussing this nonsense anymore," and encouraging people to talk about the positive, and Cardi agreed. So they might potentially be cool now, but after this everyone knew just how physical Cardi could get when she was mad.
In at number 9, Ra Ali. Due to Ra Ali being friends with Nicki Minaj, it's no wonder that she too has tried to warn people about Cardi B. Although even enemies by association sometimes have their own gripes with that person. Back in 2018 though, Ra and Cardi got involved in a physical altercation, the one that Mackenzie was talking about, that took place at the New York Fashion Week, with Cardi B leaving it with a visible bruising on her face. Both Ra Ali and Nicki Minaj would leave without a scratch though. A short time later, Ali called out Cardi B during an interview and said, "I don't knock nobody's come up, but don't try me. I got 1 in the chamber, 14 in the clip. This was a warning shot. I will release receipts and destroy you, Cardi. Try me. So instead of writing me essays on Instagram, find yourself a pen and paper and write your own raps." Woo! She then went on to call her mentally incapacitated.
And at number 8, Azealia Banks. After the whole New York Fashion Week scuffle, the rap world started to divide pretty firmly on two sides of the battle, either Team Nicki or Team Cardi, basically like Johnny mentioned before. And Azealia very firmly took Team Nicki. But a lot of people didn't think this was necessarily because she supported Nicki, but because she just hated Cardi so much, and already had been in feuds with her in the past. When speaking about the feud, she said about Cardi, quote, "She doesn't understand the rules of black female etiquette. She doesn't understand that black women in 2018, we fight with our words, not with our hands." Then continuing on that Cardi is, quote, "stupid and ghetto," and that she should be kicked out of the black community. Then speaking about race again, Azealia called out Cardi for only speaking about her black heritage when it's convenient for her, even calling her the, quote, "poor man's Nicki Minaj." Adding in the interview, quote, "2 years ago, the conversation surrounding black women's culture was really reaching an all-time high. We were really discussing our power amongst ourselves. Beyonce came out with Lemonade, and there was just really intelligent conversation going on nationally. And then everything just kind of changed, and then it was like Cardi B." So clearly Azealia is not a fan whatsoever.
In at number 7, Banks. How excited would you be if you were a musician and then suddenly you heard your song being played on a late night talk show? Sounds like a dream come true, right? Well, for the South Sudanese born rapper named Banks, it was his biggest nightmare. Banks became well known, especially in Australia, for his viral hits such as Take You to the Movies and Meet Me on Facebook. However, it was his song Take You to the Movies that received a rather unflattering review from one Jimmy Fallon. In a segment called Do Not Play, Fallon ridiculed Banks for the song and even mocked his performance by mimicking him. In response to this, Jimmy made a new enemy in Australia, and Banks put out a Jimmy Fallon diss track called Do Not Watch.
And at number 6, The Shade Room. So if you guys don't know of The Shade Room, it's a popular Instagram account that shades celebrities and talks about their drama. But Cardi made it very clear that she does not like when blogs talk badly about her or her friends, when she publicly called out the owner of The Shade Room in a long ranty video. After they posted about Offset getting charged with gun possession, she ranted that they only write negative news, saying that since the owner of the blog is not allowed to post about Cardi, they instead post about all the people that she's close with, trying to bring hate their way. Adding that she doesn't need them to only post positive stuff about her, but they should cover some good and some bad to keep it fair. And the most shocking thing about this rant to me was that The Shade Room is not able to post about Cardi, which clearly shows that she cannot take criticism. And the fact that she needs to put these blogs on blast when they speak negatively about tons of other celebs too, just shows that she thinks everything's about her. her.
In at number 5, unrelatable. James Corden decided it was his duty to stand up for every overweight person in the world in defending their right to eat when Bill Maher said that we should bring back fat shaming. And judging by the way Corden responded to this clip, you would think that Bill called him out specifically. He didn't though. James is just that easily offended and has a bigger platform to cry on than most people. The point Bill was trying to make was a comedic one that missed the mark, but he was emphasizing that America needs to bring back shame, which it does. We should all have a little bit of shame, in fact. James tried to make this his champion moment of being the king of all that is good in the world, but started to lose people when he continuously made it about himself. He kept saying, this hurt me because I wanted to be in movie roles but was too out of shape. His remarks hurt me because I was never accepted by society. But there he is sitting behind a late night show desk, no problem. Also, in my humble opinion, if he didn't feel some shame about the way that he looked, James would have probably never been motivated enough to create his own show, Gavin and Stacey. He's trying too hard to be a fake idol by making his audience believe that he's offended by remarks that have nothing to do with him. Literally nothing to do with him.
And at number 4, Naomi Campbell. Naomi was another person that took Nicki's side after the Fashion Week blowout, because obviously Naomi was unimpressed that Cardi made a mockery out of the fashion event. When talking about the night with Andy Cohen, Campbell said it was very disappointing to see, regardless of whatever reason Cardi had for starting the fight, saying, quote, I was disappointed. I don't want to see women of color fight. I don't want to see women fight, period. Not there. That's it. It's all music. There's no division of music. Music's for everybody. There's no discrimination, so I felt very disappointed. Yikes. And we know that Naomi can have quite a temper herself, so for her to say that means she was really incredibly disappointed.
In at number 3, Horatio Sanz. It's no question that being a celebrity or being in the Hollywood spotlight definitely comes with a lot of pressure. Many people eventually succumb to some type of addiction issue as a way to cope with this. Horatio, who worked with Fallon back in the day on Saturday Night Live, slipped up during an interview with Vulture magazine. Because the pair had worked together for many years, they grew to become pretty close friends. Although Horatio admitted that every person who worked on SNL had some kind of illegal substance addiction or drinking problem. He continued by saying that comedians on the show would often find themselves needing to blow off steam, and it wasn't long before people started connecting the dots between that statement and Jimmy Fallon. It had been long rumored that Jimmy may have had a drinking problem as well, but the network, both for SNL and The Tonight Show, did their very best to perfect his image. This also makes a previous story about Fallon getting into a bar fight make a lot more sense. Horatio continued to talk about past alleged fights, including one where Jimmy supposedly poured a drink into someone's hat. Horatio claims that when the guy tried to confront Jimmy Fallon, he reportedly ended up on the floor.
And at number 2, Asia Davies. Before Cardi was a mainstream name, known as a rapper around the world, she was a reality star on Love and Hip Hop New York, where she also got a reputation for being hot-headed and violent, even throwing a shoe at Asia in the reunion episode. That was all because Cardi was getting a little too close to Asia's boyfriend, Swift, and when Cardi was on Swift's phone one day, she saw that he was getting messages from Asia, talking badly about Cardi. It's also worth noting that Cardi didn't know that he was in a relationship at that time. Before the reunion, the girls had a brief confrontation where they got into a physical fight, which obviously came to a head once again at the reunion when Cardi threw her shoe. So I guess we all could have predicted that shoe throw would happen, once again.
Last but certainly not least, coming in on our number 1 spot, Funkmaster Flex. Funkmaster Flex is an American DJ, rapper, record producer, and host of New York City's Hot 97 Radio. And if there's one thing he's famous for though, it's his hatred for rappers who don't write their own lyrics. He even infamously threw shade at Cardi B's lyrical credibility on Instagram Live in April of 2018. In the IG Live, Funk Flex explains that Cardi's Bodak Yellow was written by a ghostwriter. He goes on to say, for you Cardi fans, I don't care what her opinion is about anything when you don't write your own shit. I don't care, I don't. Cardi's consistently getting somebody else to write her shit. He then went on to say, I can't stand rappers who don't write they shit. What did we learn today, boys and girls? Write your own shit. And when your shit gets funny, don't go on the gram and turn your comments off, and don't fire your management as soon as you get to the right place. That was a lot of beeping, and I'm sorry. Although to be fair, I don't believe that it has been proven that Cardi B has ghostwriters, but at the same time, I also wouldn't say that it's impossible.